welcome to episode 131 of A Gamer Looks at 40. I'm Bill Tucker, and today we start the first of 4 episodes where we talk to people who like to collect stuff. Now, for some reason or another, I'm not one of those people, so collectors, especially in the world of retro video games, are endlessly interesting to me. See, not only are they following a passion that I have as well, they're protecting a legacy, a hobby that was initially meant to be disposable distractions in favor of quote-unquote higher forms of art. And there's also stories buried in these cabinets and shelves full of plastic and cardboard. Personal tales behind the things. Reasons why these collections exist at all. On this episode of A Gamer Looks at 40, I chat with the first collector I ever knew, the one and only Joe Coiro of JoeCade on YouTube. During this conversation, we discuss big gets, the importance of preserving the past, and the stories behind his most precious pieces. Time to jump on Facebook Marketplace, expand our search area, and hope for hidden gems as we embark upon episode 131, Call of the Collector, Part 1, with Joe Coiro. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an auspicious guest with us this evening for A Gamer Looks at 40. He is a man of many talents, none of which I can be allowed to speak of due to legal reasons that I cannot disclose at this time. But he is one of the JoeCade YouTube channel, the one and only Joe Coiro. What's going on, buddy?
Thank you. All right. You're going to insert applause here.
Yes.
I was guaranteed that.
Okay. All right. I mean, you making me do a little extra work.
It was contingent upon me coming on the show. So come on.
I don't read your writer. I don't read any of these things. I don't read the contract.
It's a prerequisite for any time I've been. Whenever I enter a room, actually.
Okay.
I have the echo. I say, Alexa, round of applause. So, yeah.
I'm surprised you don't have your own entrance music like a wrestler. You're just like, I am a real American.
Hey, speaking of that, I don't want to veer too off.
Nah, that's fine.
Didn't he have great entrance music? Do you remember from the Goonies? Every time Data was on screen, anytime he was in frame, remember? Wasn't that great?
I think I do remember this. I vaguely remember. It's been a very long time.
Anyway,
this
whole thing's gonna be cut.
Yeah, probably not. I'm sure it'll just stay as is. It'll stay like it was before. Good. We were doing Godfather lines before we got on the show, and now we're doing them again. Joey, we're here to talk about collecting. Okay. I find collecting to be fascinating. I don't have the collector's gene. I don't have the collector's bug. I try to get rid of things, not acquire them. But Joey, you are the opposite. You've been collecting video game stuff since I've known you pretty much. So let's just start out with the very beginning. We've talked about your entry points into video games on this show before. Check out episode 4, I think it is, a Sega Kid and Nintendo Playground, either 3 or 4, one of the very first episodes of this podcast where we talk about your entry point into video games. But I want to first explore where did you start actually collecting? And you still have the systems from your youth, right? But like when did you turn from a fan of video games to a collector in your mind?
Oh, so yes, to answer your question, I still have the video games from my youth. I've got 71 video game consoles. For those who may or may not know, I was young. I was really, the whole thing started with one fateful decision, choosing the Sega Master System over the NES. And there's an installment on your great program about that. I just fell in love with one game, Shinobi. I had family members, my uncle, everyone tried to deter me, like, you got to get the Nintendo. Everyone's talking about the Nintendo, and Nintendo just didn't have Shinobi. So I just, very tunnel vision. I wanted Master System. And because of that, I wasn't happy. We were a family. We were living on a budget. So we couldn't get Nintendo at that time in 87, 88. My uncle, there's another episode on this for your program, gave me his Atari. He thought, oh, maybe this, Joseph's not happy with the Master System. Maybe this will make him happy, and it made me even less happy. There's a whole episode on this, the Frogger episode. So I struck out twice, and then I moved away. I moved away to another neighborhood in '90, and when we moved into the new house, we went into the crawl space, and there was a TurboGrafx 16 that they left. Yeah. They left it there. There was a hookup cable. There was a game. There was a control pad, but no power cord. No power cord.
Interesting. Okay.
So I became obsessed with trying to power this thing and forcing other ones from radio programs. From radios, just everywhere. Trying to force this in. And my father was like, Joseph, you're going to fry it. It doesn't work. And I jammed it in, and he was right. I fried it. Bam.
Did you really fry it?
Yeah.
I was going to say, were you trying to be a junior electrical engineer?
Yeah.
Like, sure, let's fit this thing into this space. Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So the thing broke. Yeah.
So you fried it. Okay.
I really fried it. So the thing broke, and it was Christmas time of 91, the following year, and it was, Genesis or Super Nintendo, and this time I wasn't going to make the same mistake. I said, we're getting the Super Nintendo, and we had a little bit more disposable income, so my father said, okay, you can do that. Simultaneously, that month, one of my neighbors down the street in a garage sale was selling his Nintendo. Jeff Hope was selling his Nintendo. Original NES, not Super Nintendo. Original NES for $40. So I got it. I saved up my money. I had enough allowance, and I bought it. I bought it at the same time that we got the Super Nintendo for Christmas. And I played the NES, Bill. I could say this emphatically. I played the NES more than I played the Super Nintendo because
really?
I had to catch up on all those games, Bill.
Sure. Yeah.
It was a whole beautiful catalog of games and titles that I had never played before. So, it was like, whoa to me. The Super Nintendo, don't get me wrong, we played it, but not like the NES. And I was a new kid on the block, so it was Christmas of 91, so it's really the spring of 92 that I start having friends come over the house. And they saw 5 consoles. They saw my Sega Master System, right? They saw the Super Nintendo that we got for Christmas. The Nintendo, that's the third console, the Nintendo that I bought from the garage sale for $40 from Jeff Hope. The Atari that my uncle had given me, and a TurboGrafx 16 that the old residents of the house left that didn't work. And I never told them it didn't work. I just I did my classic Joey smoke and mirror sleight of hand.
Yeah, I never knew it worked. I've known you for 37 something years.
When did we play it? You never
played it. I know you had one, but I've never once played it.
Yeah,
I had no idea until this very moment. It didn't work.
The only systems we would play, for those that don't know, is Super Nintendo and Nintendo, obviously. Because when Bill would come over, I would say, "Help me with how do I get by Mega Man here? Help me with Space Mutants." And Bill was a wizard. I mean, he was fantastic at video games. And he would so we would play the Nintendo, we would play the Super Nintendo, we would play the Atari for a laugh. And Bill, he liked the Master System. He'll deny it up and down, but there were some titles, Space Harrier, Hang On, that he did enjoy. We never played the TurboGrafx. He might have asked me. He might have said, Joey, can we play the... And knowing me, I probably gave some excuse, like, oh, I lost the control pad or whatever. But
it's not that good. Yeah, why play that when you can play this? Yeah,
sure.
It was always a deflection of some sort.
There was always some sleight of hand, right. But that reaction that friends, when they would come over the house... That reaction, that expressive, colorful reaction, that became intoxicating. You got 5 systems? whoa, what is this? Like, you must be rich. And of course we weren't, but like I
Yeah.
liked the attention.
Right.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't like the attention. I loved it. They would
Sure.
come, well, I've never seen this before. This is like an arcade. This is crazy. I don't know anyone with 5 systems. You're rich. And really, in retrospect, 3 of them were a combined $40. The TurboGrafx was broken left by the previous residents. My uncle gave me the Atari for free, and I bought the Nintendo. So 3 systems were $40.
Yeah.
It was only the Master System, but I loved that reaction.
Yeah.
I wanted more of it. I wanted more of it.
Interesting.
And that's where, Bill, that's where the whole, because I'm really like you. I don't really like, I don't throw things away, but I'm not a pack rat. But
Right.
it was that reaction, that expressive reaction that everybody, whoa, I don't know anyone with 5 systems, Joey. That's awesome. That
Yeah.
it became a thing. I just wanted more and more and more of it. We would get the Genesis, the following year. So that was awesome. We just kept adding to it. And then when you have this type of, reputation, this moniker, people would just like give me their systems, their consoles. My friend would come over and say, this was my uncle, my mother's, or their old Coleco, and I know you like these. You want it? Somebody else would say, I really want the new N64. You want to buy my Panasonic 3DO? I'll sell it to you for $50. You contributed that, Joey.
Yep.
Uncle Gary, he doesn't want the in television anymore, and I told him that you're a collect. So, be honest with you, after '95. It began becoming easier to collect
Right.
these consoles because there was just some sort of a charity program that I had inadvertently adopted.
You were the island of misfit toys. It was just for video game consoles. You were the island. That's what it was. That's it. And you're right though, because everyone knew you were the only person we knew that liked these old things. Like
Yes.
nobody in that era wanted old things.
No.
So I always held on to things. I always had younger siblings who would play the older things. So you're right, but no one else in our friend group really cared about, like, no one cared about retro games. It was what's the new thing, right? So
always the new thing, right? But it was that reaction. You might remember coming downstairs into the basement,
totally,
and seeing 5 consoles. We had 2 on top of the TV.
Yep.
And there was some quarter caddy wicker thing that my father would put in the corner, and where 3 consoles went. And I mean, I loved that attention. I loved it when people would react to that.
I find it really interesting, especially because you were new to the neighborhood. You're looking for attention. You're looking for connection and community.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And that was one of the things you used, sounds like, to get that community. And I can totally see, as a young person, even as an older person, being really attracted to that. That's very interesting. So,
well, kids, the acceptance is everything. I don't want to cut you off, but to be accepted is everything. So, yeah, to your point, I co-opted that as a form of child acceptance. Yes.
That's really interesting. So as time goes on, the retro games become more and more popular, but not really until, I would say, maybe 7 years ago was it really a thing that people were doing. What continued that? Because I can't imagine that desire for connection sustained the continued collecting. So what kept it going when you got to your 20s and your 30s as you continue to amass these things?
Sure. It's a great question. Just being such an avid fan, junkie, if you will, of the space. Video gaming, there was a few things for you and I as children. Rock music, comedy, cartoons, The Simpsons, hockey. Video games were certainly in that Rolodex for me, Bill. It was a passion. It was just something that I've always really appreciated. I can remember being just, a young adolescent and playing deep, meaningful games like Link to the Past and Super Metroid, thinking, this is art. This is art, and adults would laugh and scoff at us. But I mean, we were we wound up being right. I don't want to make this like, oh, we were proven right thing, but we were proven right. These things are unbelievable. The tracks, the symphonic musical scores, the level design, the story, everything about them. I just really, really fell in love with it. And it became easier, like I said, 13, 14, 15, to collect those systems.
Yeah.
Even living on a budget like my family did. By 16 now, I'm a busboy. I'm making my own money.
Yeah.
Not that my family was poor. We certainly weren't, but they lived on a budget. So by 16, if I'm making my own money, if I'm bringing home money, my family never asked me to contribute, right? I'm 16, 17, living at home. Mom washes my clothes. They feed me. They give me roof and board. The money is mine. What am I going to do with it? I'm going to save it. And, I'll be able to parlay some things. I can get a Jaguar from my friend who's selling it, secondhand, used, $40. Or a Sega Saturn, that's on sale. That's on sale at the store. Okay, that's going to start. I'm going to save up 3 weeks' pay to get the Saturn. And then my Christmas gift, that'll be the Nintendo 64. So I was able to kind of squirrel and find nuances to get these consoles, whether they were used or secondhand, or using our Christmas to me and my brother saying, okay, because my family wasn't going to get more than one console. You were the same.
Yeah.
You would get one big console and that was it. And the rest of it was just continuing to collect and really enjoying the games. I mean, it got to a point eventually that I couldn't have more than 8 consoles connected to one TV, but they were all still there. You remember coming over and, saying, I want to play PlayStation, Joey. Okay. And that was just, it took me 5 seconds to unhook something, the Saturn, and then plugging in the PlayStation.
Right.
And at that point, it's like an alternator. When you start the car, the starter is the thing that starts the car. How the car runs is the alternator. By then, I've already amassed, between portables and home, I guess 25, 30 consoles.
30. Yeah, 30.
So at
30.
That point, it became like kind of like a hobby. It became a kind of my thing.
And you were always someone who collected consoles. You weren't so much collecting because you had games for these things, obviously. Yep. But games were never as important as just having the consoles. You always want to have, hey, do you have this? Hey, do you have that? And you always want to answer yes. Yes. And you can pretty much answer yes to almost any console at this point, I think. We'll talk about some of the individual things in a little bit, but I find that interesting that it was also wasn't so much a nostalgia thing at the age of 16, 17. It was just you enjoyed the games. Like you just really appreciated having different platforms to play on. Again, in that era, there were lots of exclusives. Exclusives don't exist as much anymore, so you can stick to one console and be okay. But back in those days, if you wanted to play Bonk's Adventure, you'd have to get a working TurboGrafx 16. Quick postscript. Do you have a working TurboGrafx 16 now, Joey?
So now I do. Yeah.
You now have one? Do you still have the broken one? Do you still have the broken one?
No.
Okay.
This is what I mean. I kind of fight my wife when she calls me a pack rat. I got rid of the broken one. Once I got a new one. Yeah.
That's
but
fair.
No, I love the games. I love the systems. And, this is like 93, 94, 95. There's no internet in 95. I mean, we're neophytes. It's in 1995, even 96. It's really the nebulous of the web. So how else could we entertain ourselves? I had friends that would sleep over regularly. Bill would come over regularly. So I liked that. I liked entertaining. And, what do you want to play, Bill? And Bill, I had Game Gear, I had Nomad, I had Game Boy, I had Virtual Boy, and so and I liked how my friends would kind of get off on it, for lack of a better term, like oh, this is great. We could just go to Joey's room and plug in and entertain ourselves.
Yeah, and it was always really fun to play things I'd never touched before, which was always great because if it was ever like hey, have you ever played with a Game Gear? Yeah. At Joey's house. Have you ever had your head in a Virtual Boy? Yes, at Joey's house. When's the first time you looked at a PlayStation? At Joey's house. It was always, when did you first time you touch it? Did you ever play a Jaguar? Sure did. At Joey's house. So it was which was really cool and formative too. And I think that's what I appreciate about this is that it's formative. And you talking about how video games were an art form, a newly discovered art form for us. I think that speaks to a lot of different people of our age and of our vintage, especially those people who are in their 40s now, who grew up in the 80s and the 90s with this 8-bit and the super 16-bit systems.
Yeah.
Video games were our rock and roll. Video games were our Beatles.
Yeah.
Where it was an art form that evolved with us and alongside us.
Well said.
At the same time that we grew up. By the time we were 17, 18, 19 in college, games were getting edgier and they were marketing to us,
Yeah.
and then in their mid 20s, games started having more in-depth stories when we were becoming more media literate, right? And so video games for us, I think, is very special and different than I think any other generation will ever be, because it grew up with us. And
there was
all
something
along
that happened.
Yeah.
There was something happened, you're right, with our generation that we didn't let it go for whatever reason. And you can't say that, in the mid to late 70s. And they had some banger consoles then too. They had the Intellivision, the Coleco, the Bally, Astrocade, which was great. The Odyssey, Magnavox Odyssey series, obviously the Atari. But those kids, 77, 78, 79, they just put him away up until the crash. And you're right. Something happened, something very, very poignant happened with our generation where we didn't let it go. And if you look at the popular games of the late 80s, they are Mario, Sonic, colorful, cuddly characters of an 11, 12-year-old. And then you get into the early 90s, right? And you have angst, you have teen anger, so and libido and all, and that those were the games. Sex appeal, Lara Croft, gratuitous violence, over the top fatalities, Mortal Kombat, everything that is that of a 14, 15-year-old. And then yes, to Bill's point, the late 90s, that's where Madden comes in. Now we're young adults, we're into sports, Metal Gear Solid, we're into spying, detective, espionage type games. If you really look at what was popular, it follows our generation, does it not, Bill? It
does, and that's what I think is unique about our generation when it comes to video games. Now, mind you, let me put it this way: every generation, of course, is going to have those tentpoles. Like, for example, like Pokemon is a good example. I never got Pokemon. I was 17 when Pokemon came out. I was too old for Pokemon at the time. But I know a lot of people I speak to who are 6 years younger than us, that Pokemon was their everything.
Life.
Pokemon was life. And because they were 11 or 10 or 11 when Pokemon came out, and Pokemon Red and Blue were the end all be all, right?
My brother-in-law, he's like, give me a cartoon that was big for you. And I said, Thundercats. Yeah. And he said, now give me a video game. I said, Mario. He says, now give me a card, some card. I said, Garbage Pail Kids. Right. He said, Joey, mash Garbage Pail Kids and Thundercats and Super Mario, combine those two. That's Pokemon for us. And Bill, I got it. Yeah. I was like, okay, wow. Yeah. I got it.
Pokemon was a cultural revolution. It took over. I can't wait to talk to Gil Tilden about Pokemon. I do have to schedule that interview at some point. Gil Tilden, who was the editor-in-chief of Nintendo Power for the longest time, which is my episode 100. She also is responsible for bringing Pokemon to the U.S. from Japan.
Wow.
So I have to. It's in my little mental bonnet of things. Reach out to Gail at some point to talk to her.
I'd be very interested in that.
Yeah, it'd be cool to hear her talk about Pokemon. But so anyway, back to your collection, good sir. Let's talk about some of these specific pieces in particular. What would you say your rarest thing is in your collection? The one that you can bust out to and most people go, what in heaven's name is that contraption?
There's a few. Yeah. So by the 2000s, 2003, 4, I'm married. I got married very young, and the consoles were limited to just really 3. Whatever Nintendo released, GameCube. a PlayStation insert number, and an Xbox. So that was really what, and now I have a full-time job, I have a career. So that's really, and the internet is booming, eBay is a thing. I was able to really focus and look for rare pieces and items during this period of time. And a lot of them I already had. I discovered in 05, 06, the Sega Nomad, that's rare, have it already. The Virtual Boy, that's rare too, have that already. The more rare ones, beyond Virtual Boy, I have the Engage, which is incredibly, incredibly rare. Those that don't know, it was Nokia that said, let's take the portable video game, idea and marry it with mobile phones. So that was, now everyone has a video game on their Galaxy or iPhone or whatnot, but that was way, way ahead of its time.
Because it played cartridges, right?
Correct. It played cartridges.
Didn't you have to? I may be wrong on this. Didn't you have to remove the battery cover to change out the cartridges or something stupid like that?
No, you did.
No.
You had great. No, you're right.
Okay. I'm right.
Look at
that. Look at that.
That's the memory. There was no other place.
I don't know what I had for breakfast today, but I do tell you that you can remove the battery compartment for an Engage. It was the taco. It was the taco phone.
It was a taco phone, so that's quite rare. The R-Zone. The R-Zone was Tiger Electronics. Their attempt to do, for whatever reason, virtual reality was big in the 90s, late 90s. It was huge. Yep. Everyone had some 3D thing, and so that was their kind of poor man's Virtual Boy, and it was really, really bad. And I don't just say this. It was just really a strap that you strap to your head and some red lens that would be 6 inches from your right eye. The left eye, it was some sort of like a 3D
hologram. It was like a hologram almost that was projected against the red plastic shroud. Yep. I remember attempting to play this thing, Joey, and I use the word attempting because I was never successful at playing your R-Zone, but I have had an R-Zone strapped to my head too at Joey's house. So
that's rare. My Magnavox Odyssey, very rare. My Turbo Express, extremely rare, which is the TurboGrafx 16 portable. Yeah.
Nice. Yep. I remember that. Yep.
My Atari Lynx, that's an item it took me a long time to get, and I finally did. Anything Neo Geo, for whatever reason, that's like the Rolex, the Mercedes. That was always something that was way, way too expensive. That was one, there was no ports. You know that. You went and played a Neo Geo console in your house. You were playing the same port that was out in the arcades at the time. Yep. And they were a fortune. Panasonic 3DO, my Philips CDI, extremely rare. And my Vectrex, which I just got last month.
I was going to ask you what your most recent acquisition is. Vectrex. You got a Vectrex. Wow.
I got a Vectrex. That was something that I was trying for a long time, and I'm very picky when it comes to that because the Vectrex was a portable television tube. Right. So you really have to speak to the owner and say, how much he or she uses it. Like, how much did you use this? If they say, I use this all the time, you kind of want to shy away from it because when you're dealing with TV tubes, it could go at any second. It's the ones that say, I really barely used it. They're the ones to look for, and they're really, really difficult to find. I got very lucky with this person that I found in South Jersey on the Facebook Marketplace. He babied this thing. I can't wait to show it to you, Bill.
Yeah, that's cool.
I got the case. It's on my channel. 2 control pads, all of the overlays, the instruction manual, and 17 games. So yeah, that's the one I'm very proud of.
That's really cool, man. That is very cool. I was going to ask you what your most recent acquisition is, and that's I did not know about the Vectrex. That's really cool. That's a very cool system.
Now I'm going to turn the tables. I'm going to take my opportunity and turn the tables on one William Walter because he is one to say to me that he doesn't like to collect, that he likes to get rid of things, and he does. It's an accurate assessment. It's an accurate comment. But you, my friend, you have quite a collection of video games yourself. Am I wrong?
I have some systems. I have some systems. I have a system or two that are still knocking around the old house here.
You didn't get rid of your Nintendo or your Super Nintendo,
no.
right?
So I don't have them. My brother has them. And
Okay, that qualifies.
Yeah.
Okay, GameCube.
My brother's got a GameCube. He's got the GameCube and his N64 still.
N64. Okay,
and he might still have his Game Boy.
That's 7, and I know you got the Game Boy Advance because I hacked it for you. That's 8. You've got the Wii. That's 9.
Yeah.
You've got how many PlayStation? I mean, we're at double digits already.
We're in double digits already. I have a PlayStation. I have a PlayStation 2, 3, 4, and 5. So
there you go.
It's a 2 Slim and a fat chunky PS3 and a 4 and a 5. No, yeah, that's very fair. I still have a Game Boy Micro.
Okay,
that one Joe Coiro got me for Christmas one year. I absolutely love that thing. That thing was awesome.
Great. It was so good. I love the Nano. Yeah, I mean, dare I say, we're approaching 20.
Yeah. That's a number. Sure. I have a DS, a 3DS. Okay. If I were to collect systems, I actually have a system. I've been trying to figure out. I think I still have it somewhere. I have an Odyssey 2.
Oh my goodness.
I have an Odyssey 2. My friend Eric, who is Hourless Life, if you want to go check out his YouTube, he's a full-time overlander. He is traveling around the world with his wife and 8-year-old.
I do. Send it to me when we're offline. Yeah.
Yeah. And Hourless Life, everyone else wants to check it out. He's an amazing dude. When he was moving out of his mother passed away a couple of years ago, unfortunately. And when they were cleaning out their house, he found his old Odyssey 2 with 9 games and boxes and in the box. And I was the only person. I was you, Joey. I was the only person he could think of who actually would want that. And so I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. So it's been sitting in one of our closets for the last couple of years. Again, not on display or anything. But I will say that. So I have an Odyssey 2.
That's
and it's got some games and such. Yeah, I mean, so yeah. It is time now to say thank you to my wonderful patrons for their wonderful patronage. These wonderful people include Seth Sergil of the All In Media Network, Julian of the Stage Select Podcast, BT Goebbels, the Let's Play Princess of Nerds Abroadcast, Games with Coffee, Greg Stewart of the Player One Podcast and Generation 16 series of videos, Terry Kinnair, the aforementioned Joey Coiro, Philip Becker, Lindsay Harney, Lucas Thompson, and the editor extraordinaire, Pete Harney. If you would like to join these amazing human beings, mosey on over to A Gamer Looks at 40 on Patreon, check out the tiers, and if something inspires your spirit of philanthropy, then by all means, sign up today. Let's jump back into the episode.
Now you, again, I'm turning the tables here.
Yes.
Well, as far as Sega, Saturn, Dreamcast, Genesis, was that a conscientious decision on your part? No interest? I know you were painted very strongly with Nintendo colors. Like, what was the reasoning there?
Painted? I was branded on my forehead with Mario's face. Are you kidding me? Painted. Painted implies you can remove it. I was a 4-star general in the Bit Wars, sir. I'll have you know. And I would never have a Sega anything in my possession. You know me. I am loyal to a fault when it comes to certain things, and I was loyal to a fault to Nintendo. So I was always Team Nintendo. The only reason I had a Sony anything was because my brother wanted a PlayStation 2 to play Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, interesting.
That's the only reason we had one. It's my brother wanted a PS2, and I was like, all right, you can have a PS2. I have no interest in it. It's Sony. Why would I buy a Sony thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only reason we had a PS2. But yeah, that was a conscious decision on my part to be completely anti Sega. And that streak continues. I don't like Apple. I own an iPhone now because my wife made me. She said, Bill, just get an iPhone. And sometimes you just have to say yes, dear. And you know what's the worst thing about it is? The worst of the whole thing is it's actually great. It's actually really good. It's actually great. I love
the
it.
best part of the episode.
I love it. I love the stupid thing. I loathe what it stands for, but I love it. It's great. People actually text me now and include me in group messages. Before it was like, oh, you have a Samsung? I can't put you in this group message. And I'm like, well, what do I do if I need to know? Oh, you're just not going to know. That's why I was told this, ostracized from social friend groups. But now I'm in. So that's it. But that's another story altogether. Yeah. So I'm still that way when it comes. I can be very passionate. If I were to collect something, it's very niche. If I were to collect anything, yes, I would collect Zelda themed consoles. Because I love the Zelda themed consoles. I love the color schemes. I love
that's a unique. Wow, I like that.
Yeah, because I have a Zelda themed DS. I have a Zelda themed 3DS. And I think that's it. But I was at a convention, it was a PRGE a couple of years ago, and someone was selling, I think it was a new 3DS or it was a Zelda themed DS of some sort, and it was black and gold. It was beautiful. And it was one of the last hours of the convention when everyone's like, I don't want to go home with this dumb thing. Let me please take it off my hands if you're willing. And I looked at that thing for a solid 10 minutes, Joey. And I think he wanted like 300 for it or something.
Wow.
3 or 4. I forget what it was. I'm like, I can't spend $400 on shelf candy. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, Joey.
I'm at such a point now, and this is going to sound so, I don't even want to say it because I'm not bougie. It's going to sound materialistic, but if you have the disposable income and you're going to buy something that makes you happy, go for it. That's where I'm at in my life. Like, as long as you don't go nuts and, you know, if you have the disposable income and it's going to bring you joy, do it.
And I think it's one of those situations for me where I always factor in how much joy is it going to bring. Right. And what's the return on investment?
No, you're very
for that thing. Yeah. And I tried to separate the emotions from the ROI, and that's what keeps me from making those decisions, for better or for worse. Right. But if I were to collect anything, it would be Zelda themed consoles. I want a Zelda themed.
I like that.
You know, I don't know if there was a Zelda themed N64, or if there was a Zelda themed Wii. I know there was a Wii that was Zelda themed. Like, I would get Zelda themed stuff just because I love the design of Zelda stuff. And I like Zelda. I'm a big Zelda fan, but I just love the way that stuff looks. And to have like a shelf of just Zelda themed stuff would be very cool.
You were always about the ROI and joy
and thinking ahead about, like, is this going to make me happy in 3 months, right?
And not only joy, I want to say this, sharing joy. Bill was always about sharing joy and, sharing whatever it was, whatever experience that he had that brought him joy, sharing it with others. And that's, back to the video game collecting, to be known as that person. Because there were other people that was like with music. Like my friend Andrew, like Andrew Pollard, we all knew, go to his house and you'll see records.
Yep.
You'll see cassettes. You'll see CDs. You'll see 8-tracks, stuff that we've never seen before. Yep. Like, he's the music guy. Movies. Bill was the movie guy. Bill, in his house, he had what we called the TFT. He had surround sound. I'd never seen a flat screen before I went over Bill's house. Yeah. He had the best movies. It was the best experience, the most comfortable chairs. If I was the video game guy, Bill's house was the movie guy. So to be the guy with the video game moniker, that was certainly cool for me.
No, for sure. And TFT standing for Tucker Family Theater. That was the TFT.
You remember that? Yes.
Oh yeah, totally. I had surround sound before people had surround sound. That was a big thing for me. It was like, I have 5 speakers in my basement that it comes in all the speakers. You can hear it around you. Yeah.
It was truly, for those who never experienced it, I mean this, it was like going to your own private movie theater, movie cinema. I mean, this is at the time when we have our license. All the best video games, arcades, the internet is booming.
Yeah.
And all I wanted to do was see movies because of the experience. There was nothing like it.
And one of the things for it, just going, again, this is going back to collecting, and it's kind of tangentially related, which is fine. I was one of the first people to do Netflix. Yes. And get DVDs sent to my house.
Correct.
The second I saw that I can do what now? I can go online for a flat fee every month.
Yes.
And just get 3 DVDs at a time and just watch movies and make a list, a queue of a list online. For those young bloods out there, Netflix didn't start with streaming. They actually mailed DVDs in paper sleeves to your house, and you could do 3 at max. And then when you returned one in its self-addressed envelope, they would then automatically send you the next one on your queue, and you had a queue that you managed on your computer online. And I was, get ready for this, I was one of the first people I knew who was doing Netflix DVDs, and my brother was one of the last people to do Netflix DVDs. Do you know they got rid of Netflix DVDs in 2023? That was the last.
No way.
2023. I know this for a fact because I have the email they sent to my brother. Hey, Mr. Tucker, you're the only one doing this still and have been for the last 4 years. That's not what the email said, but it's, hey, we are finally retiring DVD sending, Blu-ray sending via Netflix. I tell people this, they're like, there's no way. They had to have ended 10 years ago. Like, no. Yeah. I remember when Netflix streaming first came out, I bought a DVD player just to do Netflix streaming.
Yeah, I remember.
And it was this hand-handed app. There was like 20 movies on it. They were all documentaries nobody wanted to watch. They were awful. Do you remember the first Netflix show? The first Netflix show?
My goodness.
I think I'm right. I'm going to look this up to make sure I'm saying this properly, but
Stranger or Orange is the New Black.
No.
It wasn't Stranger Things. I don't know. No,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident it was Lilyhammer.
Okay.
Which starred Steven Van Zandt of Bruce Springsteen and Sopranos fame. It was like and I'm pretty confident that was the first Netflix exclusive series.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident because that was 2012, and that's just when
that's
Netflix
funny
streaming.
That your brother was the last of the Mohicans.
So between my brother and I, we lived the entirety of Netflix DVD streaming.
And this ties in with collecting. I mean, there's and it ties directly what I mean about Bill wanting to share that experience. And that's why we're friends for nearly 40 years.
Yeah.
Water seeks its own level. Whatever I was doing with the video games, entertaining basically my friends that would come over, wanting them to have any type of experience they had, Bill would do at the same time with me with movies. You got to see Swingers. You saw it already. I would say, no, you got to see it. He was always very, he wanted to share that joy. You got to see Clerks. You got to see Godfather too. Even though he had saw it already, he wanted you to see it. He wanted you to experience that.
That's a good point.
See your expression, see your reaction. And that's, I think, why we've been friends for so long. One of the many reasons.
That's crazy. That's really funny. I totally agree. I think that's a big part of it. Going back to the collecting side of things, I've asked this question already a couple times to some different people, so I'll pose it to you. Of everything that's in your collection, and this could even be not even video game related, if there's something that really sticks in your mind when I ask this, of everything that's in your collection, what piece is the most personal to you? Not the most expensive or not the most highest value or not the rarest, but what's the piece in your collection that holds the strongest personal connection?
You're going to get me emotional. I'm never going to forgive you.
I'm sorry. That's what I do on the show.
My Sega CD, I wanted a Sega CD for Christmas, and my father, he said that he would try to get it for me. And then about a week later, he said, Joseph, that's a peripheral. That's not its own console. You can't just get the Sega CD. You'd have to get the Genesis too. And that's like 2 systems, right? And I was like, all right, and he was working 2 jobs at the time, and King's in the deli, and he was an electrician. And I said, forget it then. I already known at that point Santa wasn't a thing. And I knew my father and my mother, whatever Christmas gift they would give me was on their dime. So I just said, forget the Sega CD then. Forget it. Just get the Genesis then. Maybe next year I'll get the Sega CD. And he says, all right. And that Christmas, he got me the Sega CD. He got me it and the Genesis. So that's something that's very personal to me. I get emotional actually when I watch Christmas Story with Ralphie and Randy.
Right.
Because he says a great line in there. He says, lying in the cold darkness like my blue steel beauty, the greatest Christmas gift I had received or would ever receive. And that's a real poignant line. Greatest Christmas gift he received at that point or would ever receive. Meaning that's the best. It never got better than that. And that was the Sega CD for me, Bill. That was, I know what my father had to do to get that, So that's it.
Yeah, man. No, I remember the Sega CD very vividly. I remember you had a Sega CD and a 32X and I remember the Sega CD that was important to you because that was the first time you had a CD player. You had a CD player in your house, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. No, that's cool. That's and do you still have that Sega CD?
Oh,
yeah. I mean, that'd be an obvious question, maybe, but yeah, I mean, sometimes these things go away, but yeah, that's awesome, man. That's cool. I think that's really touching. I always tell people my favorite video game system I ever received was my Super Nintendo, and it was a very similar situation where I knew there was no Santa Claus. I was 11 or 12, I think, at the time, and my dad said up and down, "You're not getting a Super Nintendo." He swore. He said, "It's not happening. Don't even expect it. Don't even think about it." And it was Chris. And you can actually now that I actually have a YouTube channel, I might actually put the video on YouTube now. I still have it.
I know what you're talking about. It's a beautiful video. Beautiful video. I've seen it. Please put it up. Yeah.
I will put it up one of these days. I'll do it on Christmas next year. But so that Christmas of '92. There is an episode about this on this very podcast as well, a few years old. My brother got a Game Boy, and I thought that was it. Well, my brother got a Game Boy. Well, there it is. There's no chance then of a Super Nintendo. That's like you said, it was one system for all of us. Right. And my brother got the Game Boy with Tetris. And
you always share.
We always shared. We always shared, and we were actually really good about it too. There was no, this is mine, this is not mine. There was none of that in our house. So I was like, that's it. And then at the very end, when all of the presents were wrapped and opened and there's chaos strewn about, my dad did the old, there's one gift you forgot.
It's amazing.
Look at that. One gift. Oh, wait, I think there's one. Yeah, like Christmas Story. Hey, I think you're missing one behind the tree. Yeah. And sure enough, that was a Super Nintendo. And the combination of, I've said this before on the show, but it's been a few years, so I'll say it again. The combination of no expectations,
none,
and it's the greatest Christmas gift I've ever received and will ever receive.
It's the same thing, right? It'll never get higher than that.
It won't get better than that. And the reason is that there was no expectations. It opened me up to an entirely different world of experiences. I remember, begging my dad, of course, to hook it up in the basement, and of course he did dutifully. And I'm playing till 2 p.m, nonstop, thinking playing Mario World, like it's never going to get better than this. Like it's just not going to. It opened up avenues that I didn't even expect, but there was also no strings attached either, because I received it at an age where I could enjoy things unabashedly. Like if someone gave me a car, right? Like, hey, here's a car. Wow, that's amazing. I mean, extremely grateful. Mm-hmm. But then you got to think, all right, well, I got to insure this thing. Someone's going to hit it with a shopping cart. There's worry and anxiety associated with things because I'm of the age where I should be worrying, not too much, obviously, not to the point of anxiety, but I should be concerned about the things that I have. I should be concerned about taking care of things. There should be costs to the things that I enjoy. So a few years ago, I received a camera, like a really nice camera with lenses, because I was doing a lot of music photography, and that was great. but it was also, I knew what people had to do to make that happen.
Yeah.
But the Super Nintendo had no strings attached because I was of the age where there shouldn't have been. And that's what makes it special. And so I totally agree. I think that.
And now, just to elaborate, to continue that, as adults, you and I and our fathers, for those who don't know, they both crossed over and they were both blue collar. You understand what they had to do.
Oh yeah,
and that just you know what I mean. Our
totally.
families lived on a budget, so it was like the Herculean effort that our dads had to do to get that. Yeah. So there's a newfound appreciation that you didn't have as a child.
$200 in those days was a lot.
It was a fortune.
Of money.
Fortune. Yeah.
A fortune. And again, not to get into a conversation about video game prices and all the rest of that. We're not going to get into that, but video games have always been expensive. Yeah. They've always been expensive.
That was beautifully said, though. Beautifully said.
Yeah. So, and you too, man. I mean, that's one of those things where, yeah, I totally agree. That was definitely, that's the best. That's the pinnacle, and it's not gonna.
It's the apex of
gift giving.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, that's the apex of gift giving. I mean, really, that's basically it. I mean, yeah. Do you have any stories of the system that got away, or the thing that you wanted to acquire that's just somehow escaped your grasp? If not, that's fine. But I'm just curious because I know collectors, there's always that one story of like, oh man, one that got away.
So the one that nearly got away was I had an Atari Jaguar, and I had got it. This was at the end of its shelf life. It was already at the point to being obsolete, a defunct system. So they were selling them at Toys R Us in '94 for, I want to say $68, $69, $69.99, which, and again, I'm working, I'm a busboy, I bought it. And my friend Andy Botros, he was very, very big into video games, like you and me. And he played it. And at the time, I'm at a different age. He was my brother's friend, so there's 5 years difference. And I'm more at N64. I've really got no interest in it. And he asked me, can I borrow this? And I said, yeah, sure. Of course, it's fine. No interest in it. I just said, it's fine. Bring it back, but you can borrow it. And I forgot about it. And a year later, Andy moved to California with my Atari Jaguar. And for the next 15 years, it was very hard to get an Atari Jaguar. Either you couldn't find it, or there was no such thing as Amazon. If you want to do something on eBay, you had to bid. You had to it was some sort of tobacco auctioneer stuff at the time. I would either lose the bids, or if I won the bid, I was at a point in my life where I didn't have a lot of disposable income. I just couldn't get it. It was nearly the one that got away. But of course, knowing me, like you do, I have to. Yeah, I'm not going to call Andy and say, mail me back my Jaguar. He's got the Jaguar, or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he threw it away. But for a long time, Bill, that was the one that got away.
That was the white whale. That was the one.
Literally, the white whale. Yeah,
that was your Moby Dick. That was the whale. That's interesting. I just did a cursory look online how much a Jaguar goes for. A pre-owned Jaguar with just a controller and no games goes for over $500 right now.
Yeah, it's very, very expensive.
Madness. That's absolute madness.
It's funny too, and you didn't ask me this question, but I'm going to ask the question for you.
Okay.
I'm going to pretend I'm Bill. Joey, at the the beginning of emulation,
Ooh.
Were you upset being a collector? The answer is yes.
That's an excellent question.
Because I'm thinking, oh man, are you kidding me? In 2008, 2009, emulation was, before that, but by 2010, everyone knew how to download a ROM and emulate it. So yes, I was very upset because my collection was less special now. Anyone had any video game from any era, from any console at their fingertips. I was very upset about that. I have stopped being so upset about that now because for whatever reason, I think there's a tangibility value. People like the systems now. They like cartridges and whatnot. And I've let it go. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm at a point now where everyone should play these games.
Yeah, and I've always I was emulating early. I
You
remember
were, you
I
were.
I was emulating on my IBM ThinkPad
Yes.
and
God, I remember that.
1999, baby. Yeah,
Yeah.
1999, 2000. I had Nesticle and whatever the Super Nintendo was. Like maybe
You
it was
use your college Wi-Fi. I
yeah,
remember this.
yep. I used my college Wi-Fi to
He
go
would call
on.
me like, "What was that game that we play? What, Tekken? Yeah, Tekken. Thank you, Joey. And the one with the cave, Bonk's Adventure. He
Yeah.
he was making up for lost times. Believe me."
Yep. Yeah, I was like for lost times. I still have those. I still have some of those ROMs now. You can't, with all the Nintendo crackdown. Good luck trying to find a ROM of Mario 3
You're right.
and Mario 2.
You're right.
And my ROM is labeled Mario 2. And I might be misspelt. I mean, it's ancient ROM.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I still emulate to this day. I play NHL 94 a lot on my Steam Deck, and I still do it. And obviously the world of emulation is a gray area, obviously. But I, for the limited amount that I do, the other day I was saying, hey, I've never emulated Dreamcast games. Let me see how that works.
Yeah.
And it's a royal pain in the neck. You got to do
Yes.
BIOSes, and you got to share this thing and this MAME and this whatever else. It's a royal pain. It's not replacing the joys of just plugging and playing, but I was able to play Crazy Taxi.
Yes, that's a great game. That's a great game.
For 20 minutes, it was super fun, just like it was many years ago. Obviously, the world of collecting has changed over the years. Right now, obviously, it's bigger than it's ever been. This may warm your heart or not, but I think it'll warm your heart. There is a student at the youth group that I serve with at church. His name's Greg. He is a junior in high school this year. I've known him since he was like in fourth grade, maybe fourth or fifth grade, probably. And he is an avid collector. He collects retro systems. And
I love this.
I remember one day he showed up and like, hey, Mr. Bill, check it out. And he showed me a Game Boy Color. No, it was a Game Boy Pocket. It was a Game Boy Pocket. He's like, oh yeah, I replaced the screen on it. So he resells. He kind of does a reselling thing, but he's really fair about it. He's not a jerk. But him and his dad, it's a thing they do on weekends. They go to thrift stores and they go to like
this is
places.
what I mean. You take something that's now he's spending time with his dad. Sorry.
Yeah, and him and his dad, they go around, and his big thing last year was he picked up a couple of Sony Trinitons, that were working, and 300-pound monstrosities. So anyway, what that tells me is that it's still persisting, which is cool. Yep. And what I love about classic games and retro games, and I've been asked this too, and this kind of leads into this final question of our conversation, is it's not just the nostalgia, because those games do hold up.
They do.
Because he still plays, again, he's a young kid, so he's playing like PlayStation era Resident Evil, but he's playing on original hardware, right? Like, and really enjoying it. Mr. Bill, I played BioShock, on this Xbox that I picked up, and even older than that, like I played this Nintendo game, and it's amazing that, because I think a big misconception people have outside of this retro world is that it's just nostalgia. Yeah. It's just a bunch of old guys thinking about the good old days. And you know me, Joey, considering I do a show that's basically a nostalgia bomb, that's like literally an opiate hit of nostalgia to the nostrils on a weekly basis, I'm not a nostalgic person. No. By nature. I've never been a nostalgic person by nature. I think nostalgia is a dangerous drug. I think nostalgia can be very dangerous. I think living in the past can be dangerous. I think there's lots of great things happening right now. And I think it's important to live in the moment, which is why I like to focus on stories as opposed to nostalgia. And I think there's a difference. Anyway,
there is a difference.
But it's not just nostalgia. It's not just old people wanting to be 14 again or wanting to be 11 again. It's an appreciation for the origins of an art form, and it's just liking that stuff. And the games, for the most part, hold up. The classics are still classics. The greats are still great.
Art is going to be great art no matter what time period. It can't be denied. If you see a painting or a sculpture, the Mona Lisa, you're going to say, wow. It doesn't matter how old it is. It's the same with movies, Godfather. It's the same if you play the White Album. It just doesn't matter. Great art can't be denied. And video games are that art. And it isn't just a nostalgia. And I know it's not just a nostalgia based on my children and their friends. And hey, Mr. Coiro, what's that? Oh, you saw it. Here, play it. And my niece now, and your son, who I just saw a couple months ago. We went to Topgolf, and I don't know. I think it was Zelda. I launched it on my cell phone. Here you go, Will. And he played to this new generation of kids.
Yeah.
This is not nostalgia. They don't have any intrinsic memories of the 1980s like we do.
No. Nope.
But they love it because it's
good games.
Great art. Correct.
Yeah. And
it can't be denied.
Because play is timeless. Play transcends, and games are just another form of play.
Yes.
And if you're not clouded by, again, us growing up with the industry, we were always looking for the best, the best, the better. For my son, my son's his retro claim to fame is he beat Donkey Kong Country.
I love this. That's such a hard game.
At the age of, I think he was 5.
Yes.
He was 5, and he beat Donkey Kong Country.
For 5 years old. For 5 years old, you could have told me, Joey, he did quantum physics. I probably wouldn't have reacted the same way.
The other day, he had the Switch going, and I heard the familiar sounds of The Legend of Zelda, the original NES Zelda. I'm like, Will, you playing Zelda? He's like, yeah, I'm playing the one that's like the shield on the cover. I'm like, yeah, that's the one. Like, how far did you get? He's like, not far. I'm like, okay, good, keep going. But that's the beautiful thing, right? And he has access to other games and newer games, but he's a Zelda kid. He
chooses that, and that shows you that it's just not nostalgia. That this is profound, great, for lack of a better term, art. And whether you're 9 years old or 55. It cannot be denied. And I'm so glad that it's considered an art form now, and it gets the appreciation that it deserves. Not yet, not all the way. I'd like to see an award show. The Broadway's got the Tonys, music's got the Grammys, movies got the Academy Awards. I would love it if there was. I know there's video game award, but you know what I mean, like a real. Yeah, I would love that. But we're getting there. We're getting there.
You don't like the Game Awards, the trailer fest? That's basically one long commercial for 80 different products.
Commercial, exactly. Yeah.
You don't like that?
No. I want some sort of Academy, like the Academy Awards, like I thank the Academy. Now look, there's politics with the Oscar too.
Of course.
All right, but it's still something that's considered revered.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Something of esteem and prestige, I think would be cool. And they're trying. I mean, video games are a very young art form. It's brand new still.
It's the nebulous of art. Yes, correct.
Yeah, it's in its infancy still. So we'll get to that point. But I do think there is something to be said for the classics, right? And more than just nostalgia, because a younger generation are still getting into it. I'll go to Classic Game Fest here in Austin, and I'm considering going to PRGE. I always make a last minute decision on PRGE based on what work situation. But whenever I go, there are still, it's not just old farts like you and me running around that place. There's people of every age, and dads and moms bringing their kids, and the kids are into this too, and they're playing on the old PCs and old consoles and enjoying themselves, not for kitsch factor or not because it's ironic, but because they are genuinely having a good time. I mean, and I think that's great. And I hope that's something that can persist into the future.
I love it.
Mr. Joey, before we leave, where can people find you on the internets at this moment in time, good sir?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/Joe-Cade. CAD as in David, E as in Edward. I'm also on Twitter or X, whatever it's called, Twix. I'm on Twitch, but I need help with Twitch. I'm still learning, but you can find me on there too. But I'm really where you can find me on YouTube.
Awesome. And I've had people say to me, I forgot who said this would be a good thing for us to do. I forgot who said this. Oh, it might have been Chase. Retro game might have been Chase.
Yeah, Chase is great.
And he's like, you and Joey, since I've never played Halo, he's like, you and Joey should stream playing Halo for the first time together. I've never once picked up. I lie. I picked up Halo, I think, once at a friend's house. I was like, I don't know what to do with this.
So I've never played Halo either. So yeah, that would be,
so the two of us playing Halo on stream together.
I think that would be fantastic.
That would actually be a lot of fun.
Yes,
that would be. We can maybe make that happen. Who knows?
Let's make that happen. Please do.
All right.
Yeah,
we'll make that happen. That would be a lot of fun because I don't know the first thing about it, and it'd be fun to experience it alongside somebody else.
Yeah, good idea, Chase. We'll do it.
And that just about does it for this edition of A Gamer Looks at 40. Thank you so much for checking out the show. If you would like to connect with me on social media, one place will do it all for you. Just go to agamerlooksat4040.com. All of my socials are listed out there, as well as full playlists of the large series that we do. That's Final Fantasy, and that's Legend of Zelda, Earthbound, and Tales from the Bargain Bin, all in one convenient place. And if you would like, please leave a rating or review on your pod player of choice. All that information helps robots get this show out to more human ears. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, just be kind to yourselves and each other.